The air in the atrium of St. Jude's Tertiary is filtered, chilled to exactly 68 degrees, and smells of expensive citrus-based disinfectant and the quiet, vibrating hum of capital. It is the scent of a machine that never sleeps, one that processes human trauma into quarterly dividends. I stood in the center of the lobby, wearing a charcoal wool coat that had seen better winters, and carrying a generic paper coffee cup. I looked like a man who had lost his way to the pharmacy. To the two residents hovering near the concierge desk, I was atmospheric noise. To the administrative staff behind the glass, I was a logistical error. The lobby is a cathedral of glass and brushed steel, designed to make the sick feel small and the healthy feel powerful. It's an architectural flex, funded by the very donor-subsidized bloat I had spent the last 6 months auditing from a distance. I watched a young man in a white coat, Dr. Aris, according to his badge, lean against the mahogany reception desk. He was laughing, tossing a set of keys into the air. He had that specific brand of medical royalty posture, spine straight, chest out, and unearned confidence that usually comes from a legacy admission and a father on the board. I checked my watch. 07:15. I was late for a life that hadn't technically begun yet. I approached the desk. The receptionist, a woman named Sandra, whose nameplate was crooked, didn't look up from her monitor. She was busy navigating a spreadsheet that, even from my angle, looked like a graveyard of inefficient scheduling. "Excuse me," I said. My voice was level, modulated. "I'm looking for the surgical wing's administrative offices. I believe I have an appointment with the Chief of Staff's secretary." Sandra's eyes flicked up, took an inventory of my frayed collar and my silence, and immediately categorized me. I was a Type C interaction, low priority, potential nuisance. "Visiting hours don't start until 9, sir," she said, her voice dripping with that rehearsed condescending patience used for the elderly or the confused. "If you're here for the clinic, the entrance is around the back, through the double doors by the loading dock." "I'm not a visitor," I replied. I leaned slightly against the marble. "And I'm not a patient. I'm here for the 7:30 briefing in the boardroom." Dr. Aris stopped tossing his keys. He turned, a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth, the kind of look a predator gives a confused herbivore. "The boardroom?" Aris asked, stepping closer. He smelled of expensive cologne and the arrogance of someone who has never been told no by someone they deemed an inferior. I looked at Aris. I didn't see a doctor. I saw a liability. I saw a $2.4 million malpractice suit waiting to happen because his ego outweighed his diagnostic precision. I saw a line item that needed to be deleted. "I assure you," I said, my tone remaining dangerously flat, "I am exactly where I need to be." "Listen to me," Aris said, his voice dropping into a performative, authoritative register. He placed a hand on my shoulder, a classic power move designed to diminish me. "I know it's a big building, it's confusing, my grandfather gets muddled sometimes too, but you're blocking the flow of the lobby. Sandra, call security to give this gentleman a lift to the geriatric outpatient center. They'll help him find his family." "I don't need a lift, Dr. Aris," I read his nameplate aloud, "but I do find it interesting that you're on the floor at 7:18 when your shift in the ICU ended at 7. Your handover notes for the post-op in room 412 are incomplete, by the way. You forgot to note the titration of the norepinephrine." The smirk didn't vanish, but it flickered. It was the first hairline fracture in his porcelain exterior. "How do you—" He cut himself off, then scoffed, looking at Sandra for validation. "See, this is what I'm talking about. Senile. He's overhearing fragments of conversations and hallucinating the rest. Sandra, where's that security?" Sandra was already on the phone, her voice low. "Yeah, we have a confused relative at the main desk. Not aggressive, just persistent. We need him cleared before the board arrives for the welcome ceremony." I didn't move. I didn't reach for an ID. I didn't shout. I simply watched them. I watched the way they communicated, the shorthand of elitism, the casual dismissal of anyone who didn't carry the correct social currency. His wasn't just a hospital, it was a country club with an operating theater. In the world of high-stakes medicine, there's a term called failure to rescue. It's when a patient shows signs of distress and the staff simply fails to notice until it's too late. As I stood there, being ushered toward the glass doors by a burly security guard who had just appeared at my elbow, I realized that Dr. Aris and Sandra were currently experiencing a failure to rescue. The trap was something I hadn't set this morning. The trap was the 3-year ironclad contract in my briefcase, signed by the hospital's holding company in Zurich, a contract that gave me the unilateral power to terminate any at-will employee for cultural incompatibility with the new vision of St. Jude's. "Sir," the security guard said, his hand hovering near his belt, "let's go. Don't make this a scene." I looked at the clock on the wall. 7:25. The board of directors would be exiting the elevator in precisely 60 seconds. "I'll go," I said, tilting my head slightly toward Aris. "But Aris, a word of advice. When you're trying to hide your incompetence behind a white coat, make sure the coat is actually clean. You have a blood spatter on your left cuff from the arterial line you botched this morning. It's a violation of sterile protocol. But don't worry, we'll discuss your hygiene and your future very soon." Aris laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "Yeah, sure thing, Grandpa. Tell it to the social worker." He turned his back on me, returning to his conversation with Sandra, convinced the nuisance had been handled. He felt safe. He felt untouchable. He felt like the king of the mountain, unaware that the mountain had just been sold out from under him. I felt the security guard's hand firm up on my arm, guiding me toward the exit, just as the chime of the executive elevator echoed through the marble hall. The security guard's grip was a physical manifestation of the hospital's rot, brusque, unthinking, and entirely focused on the optics of order. He steered me toward the revolving doors, but I didn't resist. I simply stopped walking when the elevator chime hit its final note. The doors slid open. A phalanx of suits emerged, led by Marcus Thorne, the hospital CEO. Thorne was a man who viewed medicine through the lens of EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. To him, a patient was a unit of revenue. A doctor was a high-maintenance asset. "Mr. Thorne," Aris called out, his voice instantly shifting from a sneer to a sycophantic trill. He smoothed his coat, covering the blood-spattered cuff I'd pointed out. "Good morning, sir. We're all ready for the reception, just clearing out some peripheral noise in the lobby." Thorne didn't even look at Aris. His eyes were scanning the room with the frantic energy of a man who'd been told a hurricane was coming, but didn't know which window would shatter first. When his gaze finally landed on me, standing there with a security guard's hand on my shoulder, his face went a shade of gray that usually indicates a massive coronary event. "Let go of him," Thorne whispered. The guard blinked. "Sir, he's been loitering, bothering the staff." "I said let go of him, you idiot," Thorne hissed, his voice cracking. He surged forward, pushing past a stunned Aris. "Dr. Vance, my God, I am so sorry. There was a delay with the welcoming committee at the north entrance. We thought you were arriving by car service." The silence that followed was absolute. It was the kind of silence that precedes a controlled demolition. I looked at the guard's hand as it slid off my arm. I looked at Sandra, whose mouth had dropped open so wide I could see the structural flaws in her dental work. And then I looked at Aris. The color was draining from his face in real time, a literal physiological response to the realization that he had just committed professional suicide. "It's quite all right, Marcus," I said, my voice carrying across the marble like a cold front. The staff was just explaining the flow of the lobby to me. Dr. Aris here was particularly concerned with my mental acuity. I reached into my charcoal coat and pulled out a slim leather-bound folder. I didn't hand it to Thorne. I held it like a weapon. "In here," I said, tapping the leather, "is the audited report on the surgical department's overhead. It turns out that when you look at the numbers through a forensic lens, St. Jude's isn't just inefficient, it's hemorrhaging, and the primary source of the bleed is a culture of protected mediocrity." "Dr. Vance," Aris stammered, his bravado replaced by a thin, watery desperation. I had no idea. The coat, the coffee, I thought you were someone who didn't matter," I interrupted. I stepped into his personal space, forcing him to look down at me. "That's your first diagnostic error. In this building, everyone matters, because everyone is a data point in the survival of the institution. You didn't see a human being. You saw a status deficit." I turned to Thorne. "Marcus, we're moving the briefing. We're not going to the boardroom. We're going to the surgical lounge. I want every attending and resident currently on the floor to witness the first round of restructuring." Thorne nodded feverishly. "Of course, whatever you need, Elias." As we walked toward the elevators, the power dynamic in the room didn't just shift, it inverted. The entourage of executives fell in behind me, creating a wake of expensive wool and clicking heels. I stopped at the reception desk. Sandra was frozen, her hands still hovering over the phone she'd used to call security. "Sandra," she said softly. She flinched. "That spreadsheet you're working on, the one for the OR rotations, you're using a 2019 optimization patch. It's why you have a 4-hour lag in the prep rooms. Updated by noon, or don't bother coming back after lunch." We entered the elevator. Aris tried to slip in behind us, his face a mask of panicked contrition. "Not you, Dr. Aris," I said, pressing the button for the 4th floor. "But sir, I'm the lead resident on the—" "You were the lead resident," I said as the doors began to close. "Now you're a case study in liability. Go to the locker room. Pack your things. Your formal termination notice will be delivered to your father's office by the end of the hour. I've already flagged the breach of sterile protocol I witnessed earlier. It'll be in your permanent file." The last thing I saw before the doors sealed was Aris standing in the center of the lobby, the same lobby where he had felt like a king moments ago. He looked small. He looked confused. He looked like a man who had finally realized that in the world of high-stakes systems, the person you ignore is often the person who owns you. As the elevator rose, Thorne leaned in, his voice trembling. "Elias, was the firing really necessary? His father is a major donor to the oncology wing. The optics are complicated." I looked at my reflection in the polished steel of the elevator doors. I looked sharp. I looked cold. I looked like the chief of surgery. "The optics are irrelevant, Marcus," I said. "We aren't here to manage a social club. We are here to perform a transplant. We are cutting out the necrotic tissue of this hospital and replacing it with something that actually functions. If the donors don't like it, they can take their names off the buildings. I'm not interested in the names on the walls. I'm interested in the bodies on the tables." The doors opened to the surgical wing. The smell here was different, sharper, more clinical, the smell of iodine and high-frequency electricity. This was my theater, and the play was about to begin. The surgical lounge was crowded with people who had spent their careers believing they were the smartest minds in any room. It's a dangerous delusion. It breeds a specific type of intellectual rot, the kind that prioritizes professional courtesy over patient outcomes. I stood at the head of the long oak table. Thorne sat to my right, looking like a man awaiting a verdict. The room was thick with the scent of overpriced coffee and the palpable, vibrating anxiety of 35 senior surgeons. "Gentlemen, ladies," I began, my voice low but cutting through the murmurs like a scalpel through dermis. "I've spent the last 6 months as a ghost in your system. I've read your billing logs, your morbidity and mortality reports, and your LinkedIn profiles. I know who among you is a surgeon and who is merely a brand." I opened my briefcase and pulled out a stack of red folders. I slid them across the table. "Dr. Holloway," I said, looking at a man in his late 50s with a tan that suggested more time on a yacht than in an OR. "Your complication rate for routine cholecystectomies is 12% higher than the national average, yet your department receives the highest allocation of discretionary funding. Why?" Holloway cleared his throat, reaching for his silk tie. "Now, look here, Vance. This is a tertiary care center. We take the difficult cases." I adjusted for acuity, doctor. The data doesn't lie. Your difficult cases are actually errors in judgment masked by your seniority. As of 0800, you are no longer the head of general surgery. You are being moved to an emeritus role. No clinical duties, no OR time. You can keep the title for your country club applications, but you will stay away from my patients. The room went cold. This wasn't a transition of power, it was a purge. "This hospital has been run as a feudal system," I continued, pacing the length of the room. "The lords at the top take the resources, while the residents, the people actually keeping the heart of this place beating, are treated as disposable labor. That ends today. We are reallocating the executive bonus pool. That money is being redirected into a 24-hour surgical support staff and a modernized inventory tracking system." I turned to a young woman standing in the back, a junior resident named Dr. Nguyen. She looked exhausted, her eyes rimmed with the red fatigue of a double shift. "Dr. Nguyen," I said, "I read your white paper on post-operative sepsis protocols. It was brilliant. It was also ignored by your department head because it challenged his established method." I looked back at the board. "Dr. Nguyen is our new lead of quality control. She has the authority to halt any procedure she deems a safety risk, regardless of whose name is on the scrub sink." The murmurs turned into a roar of protest. Thorne leaned in, whispering harshly, "Elias, you're dismantling the hierarchy. You're going to lose the senior staff. They'll walk." "Let them walk," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "The ones who walk are the ones who are afraid of being measured. The ones who stay are the ones who actually care about the science. I'm not here to be liked, Marcus. I'm here to ensure that when a person is wheeled through those doors, their life isn't a coin toss dictated by a surgeon's ego." I signaled to my assistant, who began distributing the new contracts. "You have 24 hours to sign. These contracts include strict performance-based clauses, no more lifetime appointments, no more protected incompetence. If you operate at St. Jude's, you operate at the highest level of the craft, period." One by one, the lords picked up their folders. Some looked furious, others looked terrified, but they all saw the writing on the wall. The era of the medical elite was over. The era of the practitioner had begun. Later that afternoon, I was back in the lobby. The chaos of the morning had settled into a disciplined, focused hum. I saw Aris. He was standing near the exit, holding a cardboard box. He looked stripped of his armor. No white coat, no keys, just a man who had finally been forced to look in the mirror. I walked over to him. He didn't sneer this time. He just looked at the floor. "You think I'm a monster, don't you?" I asked quietly. "I think you ruined my life because of a misunderstanding." "No," I replied, my voice devoid of malice. "I ruined your career because you showed me exactly who you are when you think no one is watching. A doctor who lacks empathy is just a technician with a high salary, and a technician who is arrogant is a danger to everyone around them." I reached out and adjusted his collar, much like he tried to patronize me earlier. "Status is what you've been chasing, Aris. Status is a title, a coat, a legacy. But worth Worth is what remains when all of that is stripped away. Right now, you have no status. I suggest you go find some worth. I turned and walked toward the elevators, the sound of my steps steady and rhythmic on the marble. I didn't look back. I had a hospital to run, a system to rebuild, and lives to save. The machine was finally starting to hum the right way.